So one of the things that I find interesting is human beings' relationship to problems. So problems, everyone's like talking about problems, everybody's trying to solve problems. And for me, like my life doesn't really have a ton of problems. So when a problem shows up, it really gets my attention because everything's pretty much smooth and working and functioning most of the time. So recently, my car, which is 22 years old and it looks newish, it looks pretty good for being that many years old, but my car subwoofer stopped working. Like, so when I would turn on, the music, I wouldn't get the bass because there was like the wire wasn't working correctly and the bass wasn't, functioning correctly. So that was problem number one. And we were like looking at my trunk and figuring out like what's going on back there. And we're like, well, maybe the amp is not working. Maybe it's not generating power or whatever to, create the bass sound. So I actually sat on that problem and I didn't solve it right away because, it's not a super high priority for me. I don't drive a lot. And I just don't feel like it was a priority. It's a problem, but it's a small problem. It's a first world problem. But I sat on it. And then Dan wanted to try to fix it for me. He's not like an auto tech specialist or anything like that, but he loves to fix things himself. He loves to figure things out. And so he offered to like try to figure it out. And I was hesitant because, my car is my baby. I was like, I don't know, but he wanted to try it. So he went out and bought this little part that supposedly is able, you can like, take the, I don't even know the terms, the stereo thing out of the, okay, so you're in the driver's seat, there's the knobs, that thing, whatever that's called. And so he tried to pull that apart and it wasn't quite the right tool. And he ended up like pulling something out and it like disconnected something within the actual radio itself. And I was like, oh no, like now it doesn't work at all. So for the longest time when I turned on the car, the radio didn't work. Sometimes it was like a FM radio, sometimes it was AM radio, sometimes it was my CD player. It shows you how old my car is, but it was just kind of like not working. So you couldn't turn the volume up, you couldn't turn the volume down, you couldn't turn it off. Sometimes it was static, sometimes it was like music, sometimes it was unwanted music. So it was just all over the place. And that graduated to, okay, that's a problem. Especially if I'm like driving and I want to listen to silence and I want to turn it off. I'm like, I don't have the power to turn it off right here. This button's not working. Like nothing's registering. And so as I was tolerating this little problem, it became bigger and bigger. And I watched my mind during this process, and certain things are like, I start to procrastinate them because they're not a priority. I have other stuff I would rather do, et cetera, et cetera. These are excuses. But the fact is like I'm tolerating this problem and it's just getting bigger and bigger over time. It's getting like more annoying over time. And so I finally go on Best Buy's website because that's where I bought my subwoofer in 2004, back in the day. And they were the ones that installed it. And I was just kind of looking at their website and looking at their services like, okay, let's just go to Best Buy. And of course I procrastinate that and don't do that. And this problem is like steadily just getting more aggravating. So this is one problem that I have. It's not like tormenting me. It's just a car stereo. I mean, I've gone my entire life with driving and listening to music and listening to, bass and hip hop and that kind of thing. It's like what I like. And then for this brief period of time, I don't have that experience. And I'm just sitting here feeling like, I get to experience like not being in control of what I'm hearing, which as a control freak, that feels aggravating. And I get to experience this, really going deep into this feeling of what it's like to tolerate something that's bothering me and irritating me. Like people are quick to solve a problem. But it's like, if you actually tolerate a problem for a little bit longer than you should, there's emotions that show up underneath that. And you learn a lot about yourself. Like, oh, okay, I wasn't aware of how attached I was to this music in my car. I wasn't aware of how much I relied on that bass sound, whatever it is, but it's like you see what your mind gets attached to. You see all these stories. And so one like little hack, one workaround that I did with this car stereo is I figured out that if I put a CD in there, it would play the CD. It would play like the actual CD. But the only problem was, I would drive to the store, which was, 8 minutes away, and then turn the car off. And then when I get back in the car, I have to start the CD over again. So it starts from song number 1. So I'm like sitting here, like listening to the same CD over and over again, the same songs over and over again, like Groundhog Day. And these are like super old CDs that I don't care about anymore. And they're just like in my car. There's a stack of them in my car and they've been there for the longest time. Some of them I forgot that I even owned. And so I'm like, I wasn't even aware that these CDs were in my car. Like, that's kind of interesting that I can drive around in this vehicle and not be aware that something's in it. And now I'm like very aware that these songs, these CDs are in it. And I'm like trying to figure out, like, when did I even buy this CD? Like, it's been so long. And it just got me thinking on this like path. I used to buy CDs at Media Play, which was a store in Colorado, and it went out of business a long time ago. But when I was a teenager, that was the place to go. And we just used to go there and look at all the new CDs. And I would literally spend all the money that I had on either CDs or Taco Bell or something like that. Food and music. So it just got me thinking, like, wow, there is stuff here. There is like stuff that I'm tolerating that I'm not even aware that I'm tolerating it. And I immediately like looked at other areas of my life. Like, okay, I'm going to start cleaning out files on my computer. I'm going to clean out my closet. There was like a lot of dust in the closet, and it's a walk-in closet. So we cleaned that out. The house cleaner cleaned that out. And I'm just like, man, yeah, there's all these areas where there's these things that you don't know that they're there if you tolerate other problems for so long that it like blocks your vision from seeing what's actually there.